Hello, welcome to Geeks Unleashed. This is episode 83, the first episode of 2022. Do you know,
83.
I almost said 21 then.
Anyway. I mean, close enough. You're going to be saying 21 for at least the next 2 weeks.
I know it's like probably by June. Anyway,
yeah, exactly.
Well, as usual, I'm Mark.
I'm Jasmin.
And I'm Steven.
We got him back. We got Steven back. Yay.
Well, I think Steven
I preempted my guest introduction.
Oh, no, that's fine. That's fine. I think Steven was on with us about last June. That was about it. So,
yeah.
We sent a search party out to Tennessee. We finally got a hold of Steven. So that is why he has appeared back again in 2022. Welcome back, Steven.
And for those on YouTube, Steven is currently on some highway.
He's on the run. All right. We're reenacting some OJ stuff. We might be reenacting some Blues Brothers stuff. Just bear with us, okay? Bear with us.
Right.
I
prefer Richard Kimball, but
oh my God, we got to be sure to check every in-house, outhouse, and porthouse in the area. Oh man, The Fugitive, so good.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Why did Tommy Lee Jones have to turn out to be such a crazy bastard in real life?
Anyway,
well, they all, anyway.
I say before we get started, Jasmin.
All right, so if you are watching us on YouTube, please be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Do the things, all of the YouTube things with the liking and the subscribing.
And the bell.
It's a notification. And be sure to click to get notifications so that you know when we upload new episodes. Also, if you are listening on whatever your podcast preference is, thank you so much. But we would also appreciate it if you would leave us a 5-star review either on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Podchaser.
Thank you very much. Cheese string?
No cheese. No, nobody wants your damn cheese string.
It can't go through. It can't go through the camera. I can post it to you. I've made it ready. Anyway.
Goodness gracious.
We're not even going to edit this anymore. So not anymore, but today. So anyway, for this month's conversation, we have the long-awaited return of Steven, who already said hello. But this conversation is actually just going to be between the three of us. Unusual, I know, but it's just going to be a conversation between the three of us, mainly around a sensitive subject on mental health. And some parts of our own lives are clearly going to be coming through, some of our own thoughts and feelings and how we've managed to make it to today. We will probably laugh and joke, even though it is a sensitive subject, but we're gonna try not to cry. Can't promise about Steven, so
now I see why Steven doesn't come on very much.
Steven's gonna give me Steven's gonna give me loads of crap afterwards. Or probably during. Anyway, what I was gonna say, it's all seriousness. I understand this episode isn't for everybody. Obviously, it might trigger some things to different people. So obviously, if it's something you're cautious or worried about and you're concerned, maybe you're not ready to hear stuff, so don't listen. If you're not ready, obviously, if you do need help and support, please listen. Equally, if this episode just isn't for you, tune into our previous episodes where we talk about all kinds of films and comics. And next week we're back for more geek stuff, but we just kind of wanted to reflect a little bit. And we just thought, we don't get a chance to chat really that. I mean, we do chat about ourselves that much. So
it's a get to know us episode, but at the same time, it's also a way to show you guys, the viewers and the listeners, that sometimes it takes a village. And us heading into our third calendar year with COVID still looming over everyone's heads, it's nice to just kind of be able to take a look at things and see, what popped up, what happened, how we dealt with it, and this being a nerd podcast, how geekdom and pop culture kind of keeps us sane during these difficult times.
Also, the third calendar year of Geeks Unleashed.
Oh, of the podcast version of Geeks Unleashed.
Podcast. Oh, yeah, the podcast version. Yeah, not the actual Geeks Unleashed. So just for info for anybody listening, Geeks Unleashed used to be a blog, which Steven and Jasmin and myself were one of many writers. So,
we are the OGs, okay? We're the OGs.
Yeah. Well, was it? Well, the original was me, a guy called Stephen Hardman and a guy called Kerry Lambert. That was the three original of the blog. And then Kerry left very quickly. And then Stephen Hardman actually stayed pretty close to the end. You guys remember Stephen, don't you?
Mhm.
And then a guy called Joe Lewis joined, a guy called Chris Romario joined. And then I think you two came along after they did. But in all honesty, there was probably like something like 30, 40 people wrote for the website. Some people might have just done one article a month or whatever, but some people like Jasmin used to kill it doing like 3 things
It was
a day.
rough, guys. It was rough.
And yeah, so but we're going to talk about the podcast later and some more about how the podcast started in a bit. But before we go into any serious stuff, whenever we have a conversation episode, I always ask the secret origin question. Like, so I'm going to ask Stephen, what's your secret origin? How did you find an interest in comics and pop culture, and what got you into that medium?
Yeah, man. My brother, growing up, he was like 6.5, 7 years older than me.
Yeah.
And by the time I was old enough to read, he had 3 long boxes of old DC comics, Legion of Superheroes, Teen Titans, all the classic stuff. And
all right, I
just fell into it, got into drawing, and still draw for kind of self-therapy to this day. So yeah, it's, so that's kind of where it all started for me.
was there any sort of favorite comic that jumped out at you, the one that pulled you in?
Honestly, man, John Romita Senior's Spider-Man was probably it. Back then they did all kinds of like large format books. There was one with Spider-Man and Morbius, and another one with Spider-Man and Superman. That was anyway, just primarily the art though. It just mesmerized me. So
That's cool though.
What about you, Jasmin? How did you get in?
My entry was actually movies and TV. The first movie I remember seeing in a theater was Batman. And
the Michael Keaton.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I remember being completely terrified of Joker when he shook that guy's hand and fried him to a crisp. So because of Batman, that is the reason that I am terrified of like zombie movies and that kind of thing, like because I always think back to that guy that got fried with the hand buzzer. But yeah, like my mom was a huge like film nerd, so she was the one that kind of put that seed. I used to watch stuff like I ended up watching stuff way above my level. Like I remember Terminator scarred me for life. Terminator is the reason that I am terrified of skeletons. Thanks so much, Terminator, for that. But like all those kinds of like the classic like 80s movies, that kind of stuff. So movies and TV when I was a very young child was kind of how I got into it. And then I took up reading on my own. Now I didn't start reading comics until I was much older, but like I used to read all kinds of books when I was a kid. So movies and TV kind of pushed me into books. And then when I think it was pretty much college was probably when I started reading actual comics. So
you mentioned a minute ago like Terminator and stuff like that. Do you have a favorite was it who did Terminator? Was it
James Cameron?
James Cameron, yeah. Do you have a favorite James Cameron movie?
Yeah, Terminator 2.
Terminator 2.
Judgment Day. Yes.
Yeah. Do you prefer Terminator 2 to 1?
Yes, absolutely. Terminator 2 is a near perfect film, honestly.
Holy crap. I think the first one kills the second one.
No way, man. No way.
But the first one is like one of the best sci-fi horror movies. I put it up there with Alien, honestly.
Yeah.
Ooh,
anyway. Wow.
Yeah. So actually, now I also think Aliens is better than Alien.
Yeah.
So
I think Aliens is better than Alien. I think Terminator 2 is better than Terminator. Like.
But see, those are both James Cameron.
I agree with Aliens.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Ridley. Yeah.
I like Gladiator when it comes to Ridley Scott, but Tony Scott of the Ridley family was my favorite director of all time.
Oh, I didn't actually know there was anyone else in the family.
Oh yeah, well,
directed.
Tony died. It was a car accident or something. I want to say like 10 years ago, maybe. But yeah, Tony Scott directed Man on Fire. He did a lot of like action stuff. So I loved Tony Scott. He was my favorite director.
That's awesome.
What about Terminators 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9? Did you go?
The only good thing about Terminator 3 was that they didn't break the timeline. Like Skynet still launched. So it was like I don't this is a terrible film. I recently watched the newest one, the one with
with the guy
where Linda Hamilton comes back.
Yeah, that's terrible.
I can't even think of the name of it now. Yes, thank you, Dark Fate.
I can't believe she came back for that. Yeah.
That was better than Salvation. I mean, I'll give it that much. Like it was not.
Was Salvation the one set in the future?
Yeah, that was the one with the Emilia Clarke.
Yeah.
And Jai
no. There was one. Which one was the one set in the future?
Oh, was that the one? Then what was the other one called? Oh, dang. Okay. So the one you're talking about was the one with Sam Worthington. That one was okay. And Christian Bale. That was Salvation.
Yeah,
so
Salvation,
the one after
Salvation
with Emilia Clarke and Jai Courtney, that one was not very good.
Oh, Genesis.
Thank you.
I actually liked Salvation.
Yeah, they keep trying to.
Yeah.
I actually thought Salvation was quite a good film. So
Salvation wasn't bad. I like that we finally got to see like the war between the people that were left and the machines. But the timeline was really hard to follow, especially because like they made Kyle Reese so much younger, so young. And like in every other version of Terminator, like Kyle Reese was the same age as John Connor. So it was like, this is a child. Like this is a kid. What are we doing with it? How do we get to this part where this guy is your father? Like, come on, man. Like, how do we get here?
Did you guys watch the Terminator TV series?
No, but I heard it was fantastic.
The first
season.
Episodes I like.
I loved the first season. I never got once I got behind and then they cancelled it. So then I just never carried on. But like it's always annoying when you're like, I've fallen behind and then they've cancelled it. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
But no, I did really like it. It was disappointing. I enjoyed it. I thought they did something pretty cool. They built a time machine like in the first episode, I remember, and like then they leaped forward. Is that right? I think that's how they got around like their times travel stuff. But I thought it was pretty cool that there was that actress, what's her name, Summer Gayu or whatever her name is. I don't know how you say her surname.
Summer Glau.
Yeah, and she was the Terminator in the TV series, and she was pretty cool. So I quite liked that.
And Lena Headey.
Oh yeah.
It's a badass.
No, I know, but obviously I know she's in it, like Game of Thrones and all that, and she's amazing. That was the first time I saw her in anything that I'm aware of.
I think I saw her in 300 first.
Oh yeah.
She was in 300. Yeah. Were you just about to get pulled over, Stephen?
Yeah, exactly. I'm going 0 miles an hour.
Anyway, obviously we've had a nice little joke.
Well, you haven't told us your origin story.
Oh yeah, crap. I forgot about myself. So I was 14. No, I always liked TV and like sci-fi and stuff like that. So I always joke about this with friends that are into sports. So I did grow up in a non-sports household. Like my dad had no interest in sports and loved sci-fi. And I remember the original Lost in Space used to be on, and Land of the Giants, and like my mum and dad both liked all that kind of stuff. And like they were all repeats, like Knight Rider, and was on.
Oh man, Knight Rider! I used to watch Knight Rider with my grandmother.
Yeah. And
Darth Vader's bathroom.
And Baywatch was on. They had Baywatch on too, but that was not sci-fi or pop culture. So anyway,
I think Baywatch counts as pop culture. I think it does.
It's something.
I think it does.
It's definitely something. Anyway,
something.
It's definitely something. Like it's not very good.
No,
but anyway,
not at all.
Anyway, so 14 years old, I'm in art class, and I can't remember. We were given something that we had to do, some sort of project, and this boy sitting next to me called Liam says to me that he was going to go to his comic shop at the weekend. And I went, what now? Like, I went, say again. So he takes me to this comic shop at the weekend because I said, "Oh, take me along." So I went with him. And I was like, I obviously used to see comics being sold in like news agents, like, like magazine shops and stuff like that, where they sold papers and all that. But I didn't know there was actually comic shops. Like, I didn't know that was a thing. So I walked in and I was like, oh my God. I was like, what is going on? When I walked in, so what was going on at the time was Marvel versus DC. Like, I don't know if you remember Marvel versus DC. Do you remember Stephen?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And all the amalgams, and Spider-Man was a clone. Peter Parker was not the original Spider-Man, although it turned out later on he was the original Spider-Man. And Ben Reilly was Spider-Man, and there's some comics called Superboy and the Ravers. Do you remember those?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, so I came in around like the whole X-Men onslaught thing, found out who the X-Men traitor was, which was weird because I was watching the X-Men animated series on TV around the same time. And so I was like, finally found out who the X-Men traitor is. Like, it's pretty cool. I used to love the Spider-Man animated series as well. So that boy, Liam, he actually stopped reading comics about a year after he introduced me to it. But I just carried on, and I still now, like, I'm flipping 40 years old and I've got way too many. So I've actually got like 3 different racks in my garage with comics. Like, there's a lot. So anyway,
do what makes you happy.
Yeah, well, yeah. Like, although I never get time to read them, but but yeah, that was my origin, really. I just got into that, like, and even I still really like. Oh, my favorite X-Men title of that time was Generation X. Do you remember that, Stephen?
Yeah.
That was my favorite X title at the time. And I got into comics after Age of Apocalypse, but I went back and got all of the Age of Apocalypse books as well. I think Age of Apocalypse had happened like a year or 2 before, but I remember at the time everybody was talking about it. So that was kind of really me, really, like how I just got into it. And I just, I've been to comic conventions and stuff like that. And actually, that's kind of my love of comics. So when I was, I want to say like 12-ish years ago, I kind of started, a bit like you with illustrating, started just writing at home and stuff. Right, I was writing at home and stuff. And then one of my friends said to me, have you ever thought about blogging? I was like, no, not really. And then they kind of encouraged me maybe to go on the internet, create a blog for myself, which I did, but my website literally has nothing on it now. I took everything down a long time ago. Anyway, I got into the A to Z April blogging challenge, and for the whole of April, I ended up doing mainly like pop culture type stuff, writing about things I enjoyed. And then I was like, oh, I like this. I think this is a cool idea. So then that's how the Geeks Unleashed blog started originally. It was, I ended up, if I hadn't have done that A to Z blogging challenge, I was like, I wouldn't have got into writing about pop culture. So then I started Geeks Unleashed. I just decided to start it. Like, I just thought, I was asking loads of people if they wanted to join me, and people were all like, oh, maybe. And in the end, I was like, I'm just going to start it. Like, I'm going to do it on my own. And then actually, literally, I started on my own. And then Stephen Hardman literally messaged me like within about a day or 2 of it launching, saying, can I come write on site? And then, then a few people came on. There was probably about 4 or 5 of us in the beginning. And then suddenly, I think it ran for like, I want to say like 3 years, maybe 4. But it was a lot. It was a lot of hard work, honestly. It was like having an unpaid full-time job.
Yes, that's exactly what it felt like.
Like, that's what it became in the end. It became like an unpaid full-time job, and it went for. And that's actually the thing, is it was something I really enjoyed in the beginning. Had a lot of buzz and passion for it, and then I was like, this is just so taking up way too much of my time, and it's becoming. And actually, in the end, I wasn't writing. I was actually just managing a website, and I was like, this is not enjoyable at all. So I remember saying to Jasmin, I think I've got to call it a day, like, with it, and we kind of agreed. We did. Then about a couple of years later, we kind of tried to bring it back again, but then I think we both realized we just didn't care. But we'll talk about the podcast, how the podcast got started a bit later. But yeah, that's kind of my scene origin. I kind of wanted to talk about a little bit about how the original Geeks Unleashed version 1 got started as well. So now I guess we'll move into difficult question time. So yeah, so Stephen. I'll tell you what, any of us can go, like whoever speaks first. How have we been impacted? How has our sort of mental health been impacted by COVID over the last 2 years?
Yeah.
Do you want to go?
Well, what's up?
Do you want to go first? Right. Yeah, that's fine.
Honestly, I feel like, so my household is 6 people. It's my parents who are in their 70s, my wife and I in our 40s, and my kids who are preteen and teen. And I think all of us have been impacted in a different way, negatively and positively. At first, I was excited to be working from home. I was excited to be able to kind of make lunches for my kids and to help be a part of their education. But slowly, like, I think the monotony, just, I wasn't even aware. But the monotony, the constant, the constant kind of barricading in with the same individuals, even though I love them, the feeling of having no idea when this was going to end, and the repetitiveness of the day, all of those things were kind of building in the background until I had my oldest child came to my wife and I with questions about gender and sexuality. And I don't want to get too deep into into our philosophies there, but one of the things that makes it very difficult in a modern context to have those conversations with your child is that there are segments of society that almost feel like the parents don't have a role there. And that's such a big part of a child's life, to be someone who really looks at their kids as just a very important aspect of my responsibilities on this earth. It has been very difficult to navigate that, and that took center stage emotionally and intellectually. And I researched, we have worked with counselors, we have been through, and the way I coped was just diving in completely and almost going in over my head without even realizing it. But the problem was that was kind of the point of impact. But all these other relationships that were strained, all these other situations that were struggling, they started being amplified because my cognitive ability to focus on maintaining all of these other stressors, on surviving these other things that were bothering me, where normally I could say, okay, this is not a big deal and move on, all of them became bigger problems for me. And I quit talking to the people close to me and articulating how I was feeling. I started internalizing and becoming very frustrated. And all of these little things, I came to realize they weren't so little. And then the last piece of the puzzle for me was, before my daughter came to me and talked to me, I was really having a problem with faith. And faith has always been a very critical part of my life, my outlook, my support structure. Anyone who has ever grown up in the church understands that there is a tremendous pressure to stay. You have an intense obligation to your parents in particular, because when a child leaves the church or has doubts about faith or any of these things, the parent, depending on how devout they are, they have the perspective that child, it could go to hell. And I have a history with my siblings where they caused a lot of stress and anxiety for my parents. So I was always working to be the good one, the one that was low maintenance and the one that didn't cause problems.
Oh boy, that's a lot of pressure.
I just, yeah, well, and it's like, and I ran into, so like all this is going on, and just before the crescendo, I start looking into my faith with open eyes, without all the cognitive dissonance, without all of the bias. I just want to know the truth. I just want to understand what I've always said I believe. Do I really believe it? I got my guts out on the table. I was 4 or 5 books deep, 20, 30 hours of listening to apologetics versus atheists and agnostics. I was so deep into this research, realized that I was far from certain. And then the biggest question of my life hits me with my child. And I just shattered. I without even knowing it, like I said, I clammed up. I would go on walks by myself, talking and like trying to sort out, but I felt desperate. I felt like I was in a fog, like I was absolutely alone, and that no one would understand how I was feeling, and that I was overreacting to all these things, and that if I could just be stronger, that maybe I could sort it all out. With my child, am I being too am I being too close-minded? Am I being too open-minded? Do I even have a role? Can I say this? Can I say that? I was desperate, and I felt like there was no answer. And then for me, I began, like I said, all of that resulted in a further isolation, where I didn't trust the people in my own house because of a lot of different factors. But for me, the biggest epiphany was just that I had a lot of unaddressed mental health concerns that were amplified and aggravated when a huge one came into my life. And the realization is, looking back on the history of my life, this is not necessarily a unique year. I can chart the years of my life and say this was a huge moment of trial for me. And they occur every few years. You get your ass kicked every few years emotionally.
Yep.
But the last 2 years were different. I couldn't take it in stride like I had before.
That's because you had nowhere to go.
Yeah.
That's how it felt. And the funny thing is, the places I had to go, I didn't believe I could for whatever reason, So anyway, that's kind of where I've been I feel like it's been building the last couple of years, and it culminated in the last few months. I feel like I'm just now crawling, not out of it, but I'm crawling through it. And I feel like, the phrase I have clung to is "this too shall pass." And that's all I can do, do my best and trust time, So anyway, and counselors, lots of freaking counseling. So anyway.
I think the self-isolation is always the telltale sign that something has gone wrong. Because I think just naturally as humans, like we are drawn to groups. Now, all of those groups have different meanings, but like as humanity is drawn to belonging somewhere, right? So when you start to take yourself out of having the ability to belong anywhere, that's when all of those things start compounding, because now you don't have any other, and not that you should always listen to outside forces, but like you don't have any other outside voices in your head to kind of combat what it is that you're going through. And that's something that I learned really early on in this pandemic. I'm kind of the opposite. Like my life had gotten so hectic and crazy and busy just before Corona hit. So right at the end of 2019, I had been working on the biggest project I'd ever had in my entire life. It was a $3.5 million project for a big oil and gas company. And it felt like I had been doing all of the work by myself. I was putting in 12, 13, 14-hour days at work. There'd be days like I wouldn't leave work until 9:00 at night. I get home, I get up, and I do it all over again the next day. Like it was exhausting. And the project started in September of 2019. And by March of 2020, we were trying to wrap everything up so that we could start like collecting the payment. And that was when things escalated even more, because oil and gas knew that shit was about to hit the fan. And so trying to get $3.5 million wrapped up, T's dotted, I's crossed, I's dotted, T's crossed, all that stuff. It was a rush right before all of the lockdowns to get everything submitted. And it was just pressure from my boss to be like, we have to get this taken care of. Pressure from my client that was like, you have to get me this information, because if you don't get this information to me, like, there's a good chance that we're not going to be able to pay you. So it was just like, when we finally went home, and I think it was March, for me, it was March 19th, 2020 was the day that we were like, okay, everybody's going to stay home now. It was the first time in 6 months that I felt like I could breathe. So to me, when this lockdown first hit, it literally saved me, because I was not eating properly. I was not sleeping properly. I was not taking care of myself at all. And if there hadn't been a shutdown, I don't know when I would have actually paused myself to take care of myself so that I could continue to do what I was doing. So I always kind of look at the beginning of COVID as like, it's one of those things, kind of like, for people that are believers, like sometimes like God is telling you like, yo, you got to calm down, or you got to do this. And then if you don't do it, he's going to step in and he's going to move something out of your way for you. I really feel like that was the moment for me, where it was just kind of like, now, your health is like on the rocks, yet you refuse to take care of yourself. So we're just going to have to shut everything down. Like, I'm making COVID all about me, right? Like, but I really do feel like it finally was something to give me the opportunity to stop. So
that'd be really annoying if COVID was because of you.
Sorry, guys. My bad. So at the beginning, that's how it felt. Like it was something that happened, and because it was such a global thing, like it really gave me the time that I needed to get myself back to some sense of normalcy. And then kind of once I leveled out, I felt fine. Like I'm normally a loner. Like, I mean, we have our groups, and I have my friend groups and my family, but I live alone. So to me, it was not a big sort of change to not go out, like not hang out, not do any of those things. So even up until now, that's not something that has really bothered me. I'm unbothered by staying home in my apartment and watching Netflix. Like, I'm okay with that. But I think we got into 2021, things are, like everything is still shut down. By mid 2021, the new thing that had cropped up for me is I then had too much time to myself, and I began to like lay everything out. And it was kind of like, I do not like what I see in myself, in the direction that my career is going. Like, there were so many things that it was just kind of like, none of this is moving. Like, none of this is moving forward. There's no progress happening. And so I started to look for a therapist, but like, of course, like the medical insurance here is crazy. And it's like, you have to go to your doctor, get a referral, and then the anyway. So it was such a chore to even get to the point where I could find someone to talk to that the insurance would cover. But then when I finally talked to this person, it was like, you're like 80 years old. This is not, I don't think that you are the person that I need to be talking to at this point. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just, because to me, what I really wanted was someone to kind of help me with like a mid-career shift, right? So I wanted someone to talk me through those kinds of steps. And I was like, I don't think this is, we're not going to mesh. And so she kind of recommended, which was probably like against her protocol. She recommended life coaching. And so I kind of put some feelers out, talked to a couple of friends, found a reference for a life coach. And I started working with a life coach back in June of 2021. And I don't even feel like the same person that I was 8 months ago now. Like it has helped open up the way that I talk to myself, the way that I treat myself, the way that I take in information, and the way that I process information. It has made everything just, I don't want to say easy, because that almost seems like cheating, but like everything feels a little bit easier now. Man. I guess it's like you finally learn how to navigate the bullshit in your own head, and it's amazing what your eyes kind of open up to. You know what I mean? It's just like, sometimes you I've gotten much better about being consistent with like journaling. And sometimes I write something down on
That's
paper
good.
and I'm like, I didn't even know that thought was up here. And it's like, but clearly it was, because it came out on the paper.
Yeah.
So it's really given me the opportunity to clear my head. And now I don't feel as desperate or as dire or like the world is ending. You know, it doesn't feel as heavy anymore because I have learned how to manage my own mind. And so I honestly think it was the best decision I could have made for myself at this time.
Yeah.
So
man, that's wonderful. That's great.
I guess it's my turn. Never like to talk about myself. Anyway, I always do this when I'm at work. Like, tell us about yourself or whatever you're, like in appraisals. I don't want to talk.
It's an interview. At the end of this, we'll determine whether or not you can be a podcast host.
No. Do you know, like,
we're not.
Do you know, it's really weird. Before we started recording, because I've spoke to both of you separately, I was like, I can talk and talk and talk. Like, now I'm like, right. Anyway, my impact on myself and my mental health, like, I think a bit like Stephen. So I live in a house of 4 people, including myself, not 6. Thank God.
You have a dog. That's 5.
Yeah, I mean, he's a late addition, but yeah, like he only joined a few months ago. But the last 2 years, I mean, so okay. So what happened was, had I have known about COVID, nobody knew. Like, had I have known, I would have not bought this house. Like that is probably the biggest thing I would have done, is not bought this house. I love this house. It's great. It's huge. It's got loads of space in it, and probably has been really good for us in some ways, but not the one that has probably become the biggest thing that I've struggled with. So 3 weeks. So okay, just, like the last 10 years, I've been living an hour away from here. And that's where my wife's family is. And that was only half an hour away from my family. And so, and my friends and where I grew up. So where we lived before was really easy for me to go and see friends and family. For my wife to see her friends and family. But we decided that we wanted a big house because that's what we thought we wanted. But so just so people know, I used to live near London, and living near London is bloody expensive. So to get even to go up another room, was like another 100 grand. Like, it was just insane. So this house that I live in now was worth, like, if this house was near where my parents live in London, this house would be like £1 million or something like that, which is just insanity. And I mean, maybe not 1 million, maybe 600, maybe 600 plus, but like, it's worth a lot more than I can afford. So we got it into our heads that we wanted big house. So we're like, okay, we're gonna have to go further away from London, which means commuting. We won't be able to see friends and family as much, but obviously we didn't know what was coming. So we thought, well, that's fine. Like, we'll just commute, and, or they can come and stay for a weekend or whatever. So we move here. 3 weeks later, the first lockdown happens. And during the first 3 weeks here, though, we didn't move our kids' school straight away. So we were commuting for the first 2 weeks. We commuted. We commuted every day back to where we used to live, because both our jobs were still there. So it made sense. So our plan had been to kind of move our jobs around here, but it's not easy to do everything at once. So we were commuting every day. We'd drop our kids at school. We'd both go to work. And then one of us, depending on what was going on, would pick the kids up and kind of could either, because I could take my kids into my office and stuff like that, for the last sort of 2 hours, or I could go work from like a friend's or a family member's house with my kids until my wife finished, and then we'd all jump in the car and then come back here. So the first 2 weeks we were here, didn't even get to know anyone. It was kind of weird. We'd literally get up and we'd be gone by 7 a.m, and then we'd get back about 6 o'clock at night. And because of the day, we were just exhausted. So anyway, like, getting towards the second week, I was like, look, we've got to get these kids in the school around here. I can't flip and do this. Like, every day. And because my job pre-COVID did allow me to work from home, like anyway, not every day, like 1 or 2 days a week or whatever. So I was like, okay, so that will mean like I can actually stay at home occasionally and then go out occasionally. Anyway, so I remember we moved our kids' schools and to a school near here. 3 days into the school, I still don't know any of the parents. I haven't even met any of them. On the third day, which was the first day I worked from home, like I get this phone call. Can you come pick your kids up? Like, and because my youngest one didn't feel well, and because obviously they were overreacting about COVID, I had to go pick up my kids. And I was told that they'd have to stay home for 10 days or something like that. Because both of them, even though my oldest one was fine, and literally they're home 2 days. And that's when the government announced the nationwide lockdown in the UK, and they were immediately homeschooled. Luckily, my wife got furloughed and was able to become their teacher. And then I obviously had insane work pressures. I won't talk about my work, but like off the back of COVID, things went insane. So that's kind of a start. But yeah, so the first year in this house, we obviously could kind of lose ourselves a little bit with homeschooling. My work was crazy. We wanted to decorate the house. So you kind of like, even though I know you talked about the board, sort of the day in, day out being samey, I did feel like a little bit the same. And I remember making this comment to somebody about how I now live at work. So, and like, I literally, I live where my office is now, like, and that's kind of like the first year I didn't notice it as much, and I probably didn't let it bother me as much because I kept thinking, oh, I'm sure the government won't let this go on forever. This would just be a 1 year thing. No, it was not. Like, so,
boy, were you wrong.
Yeah, I know. A lot of people were wrong. Anyway, so I kind of want to start the ground there. Anyway, first year kind of did fly by, and it was a bit annoying. We were promised that a lot of our freedoms would be returned. Last year, again, about 5-6 days before Christmas, I think they cancelled Christmas in the UK. You weren't allowed to see people, and all my family were going to come here. So we bought loads of food in, and then obviously the government said nobody could see each other for Christmas. Okay. I still got on with it. We did a lot of Zooms and stuff like that. And you still kept thinking, you can get through this, And then in January, and I didn't realize until more recently how affected I was by this, but my sister, who is about almost 10 years younger than me, her partner last January, on the 28th of January, suddenly passed away, 31 years old. Woke up in the morning, was fine, and unfortunately he died of a bleed on the brain, and obviously devastated me and my sister obviously the most, but obviously all of his family, and like all of us. I mean, for the loss of Jamie, but also how my sister has really struggled for the last 12 months. My sister's like had counseling, but I think it was that point, and now looking back, it was that thing that kind of triggered me thinking more and more about life and how I feel and evaluating stuff like that. And then like the last 12 months, I kind of feel like there's not really been much joy. There's been like nothing to really like look forward to. And then over the last 12 months, like the isolation of living far away from my friends and family, the living at work situation, the real lack of freedom, and just, this whole feeling of, I just want my life back. I want to be able to see my friends regularly. I want to see my family regularly. Yeah. So, that's kind of what's been going on with me for COVID. But I was going to say, like, kind of jumping into our next talking point was, sorry, actually, before we move on to that, actually, like when I say impacted, the last 10 days, obviously, as you guys, Rob, Stephen and Jasmin are aware, I did have a sort of breakdown, and it's all been very messy the last 12 days. I don't want to talk too much about the personal side of things, but like, there's been a lot of me it's not been great, shall we say? But I know we'll talk about that more in a bit. But yeah, it's kind of where it all came to a head. But I was going to say, like, what tools did we all put in place in the last 2 years, sorry, to survive this craziness that we're all in? So I know me and Jasmin put something in place, didn't we?
We sure did. It's called a podcast that you're listening
Yeah,
to
yeah.
right now.
Yeah, exactly. So I messaged Jasmin and I said, you know how we used to bat around the idea of a podcast? What better time? We are not going anywhere. Like, what better time than to have a podcast? And I'll tell you what, though, like, I think we launched it like May or June in 2000.
June. Yep.
Yeah, 2020. And I tell you what, honestly, having that to look forward to so we did it like different dates originally, like, but mainly over a weekend. And then in the end, we agreed Friday night. And actually it was like, that was like my going out time, Friday night. Like, yeah, it's like, but it wasn't going out time. It was actually just seeing Jasmin. And honestly, if anybody goes back and listens to maybe like the first 10 episodes, they're probably
don't do that.
terrible. They're probably really bad. Yeah. Like there was probably a lot of
pick it up in like September 2020, not June 2020.
Yeah. And I think from September 2020, though, is when I think we started to feel more confident. Yeah. And then we started getting guests on. I think we definitely last year had a lot more guests than we had in the first year, but that was also great as well, just having these different guests on every week. And then Stephen came on, I think he did 2 episodes in December that first year, and then Stephen sort of was a lot with us quite a lot in the first 6 months of the year. And then obviously I know Stephen did have to dip away for personal reasons, which is kind of a bit what we're talking about now. But honestly, having this to look forward to, I think, saved me for the last 2 years. Like, I don't think anything bad would have really happened to me, but like, it's a case of it really is what helped me get through the last 2 years. So almost 3 years now. So I don't know there's other things I've been trying to put in place. Like, I know you alluded to going for walks and stuff, Stephen, but I've been trying to go for walks as well a lot more in the last 2 months, like, just because I just needed to get out of this house. I've been having this whole feeling of being really claustrophobic and almost feeling like I'm in prison and stuff like that. Like, you know, I just got to get out of here, like, got to be on my own and stuff like that. So I've been trying to put in more tools like that. I decided to join a gym, went for the first time today, which felt really good. I've also been trying to make a lot more effort with just calling different friends, like even different colleagues that I used to sometimes see like a couple of times a week and chat to for 10 minutes. I haven't seen for 2 years. And today I arranged actually to meet up in 2 weeks' time with 2 former colleagues in Windsor, which you may know for Windsor Castle. So we're gonna, in 2 weeks' time, we've got a beer in the diary. So
are you meeting up with the Royals?
Yeah, with Kate and Will. Like, so they can come along. Like,
they're invited. It's fine.
We know they're listening. We know they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
So but yeah, I've been trying to, like, the last few days, and so like one of the things I've done as well is, so I've been working from home a lot, but one of the things I did was ask my work if, like, for 2 years I've literally been working at home, but I've asked if I can, because they're not keen on people going back in. When I say they're not keen, like, obviously they're trying to be safe, but like, if it's for like a well-being purpose, like, so I've gone and asked and said, look, I need to see people. I just can't, like, anymore. Like, I've got to see people. Like, they don't even have to be people I know. I've just got to, like, so when I went to the gym today for the first time, it was nice that there's people in the room. Like, you know, and like, even today I popped into the office just to, you know, say hello and stuff. And then tomorrow I'm going to go in the morning. And yeah, like, honestly, I'm just like, even though I don't really, so the office I'm going to is not an office I used to go to before COVID. But I don't really know any of them, but I'm just looking forward to just saying hello, and, you know, even being able to pop out at lunch and grab a coffee and be around other humans. Like, honestly, it's like, you know, I made a comment today, like, I got my suit out of the cupboard, right? Like, and I I said this to myself. I put my suit on to see if it fit, and also I've been quite impressed. I've lost weight the last 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and my suit is actually like got some space. Like, you know, like I'm not but anyway, I put my suit on. And I just said, like, because I'm feeling good about going in tomorrow, like to the office, and I actually said this to myself. I was like, man, you can't keep me caged. I was like, I'm getting out. Like, God, I'm getting out of this. I'm getting out of this place. Like, honestly, like, you can't hold me down. Like,
Nobody puts baby in a corner.
yeah, that's right. You know, so, but that's like literally how I've been feeling. I've been feeling like so caged, like so. Honestly, like I just need to get out. Honestly, I need my life back. That's literally how I've been feeling. So, but I mean, I know we've talked about how the podcast helped me, and I've talked about the social things I'm trying to do. But like, what about like Jasmin? Like, what tools? I know you talked about your life coach and stuff like that, but was there anything else you've done, or is it sort of just what you said and the podcast?
I make it a point to check in with people. I am still not too keen on hanging out. I am still perfectly fine, like not seeing people in person. But I at least talk to people more than I had been before. So
yeah, I need to. What about you, Stephen? Is there anything that you've put in place, or are you still working on putting things in place?
Yeah, I was before COVID. I went through like a lengthy reevaluation of my health, and was really like on track to be where I wanted to be. But then after the first year of COVID, I gained like 25 pounds and just felt no energy. And anyway, so this last year, I went and had blood work done and just kind of made going back to the gym a priority, safely. But like, it's just I have, when I feel helpless, which has been kind of like the default way I've felt, I end up with a lot of anger, like residual anger, and the gym is a good place for me to kind of process that. Like I don't, you know, it gives me time to think. It gives me like a way to spend that that currency, I guess.
yeah, so you don't Hulk out at home.
The one thing that yeah, because I went through a period where my wife said I was mean, and I'm not a mean guy normally. I'm pretty docile, so that was like kind of a wake up call, or one of them. But the thing I really want to do is get back into drawing, because that's kind of a way for my mind to wander and process. You know, it's kind of like a dream state, as weird as that sounds, where I'm not focused on my problems, but I'm processing them. So that's something I want to get back to. So, and just communicating with the people that actually love me.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. We're gonna geekdom. Did you wanna?
Oh yeah. So we talked about how we kind of started this podcast during COVID to give ourselves something to do, but like, has there been any part of like geekdom or nerdiness or pop culture that has been something that has also helped you, Stephen, to kind of get through these things?
Yeah, believe it or not, I hate social media. But
no,
you're on it all the time. What are you talking about? You literally put, "I'm going to brush my teeth" as one of your statuses.
Stephen is the worst. You tag Stephen like on Instagram or like Twitter or whatever, and he doesn't respond to you for 4 weeks.
Yeah. I know. I'm sorry. Well, it's honestly, you try having a teenage kid.
No.
And you'll hate social media too. So, but
I actually had to take away. I had to delete
the things is Instagram.
I was going to say I had to delete actually a lot of the apps on one of my teenagers' phones recently. Like, not because she was doing anything. She's not a teenager; she's almost 12. Because I know I've just interrupted your flow, but she got some quite horrible messages from another girl at school, and I was through Snapchat, and I was like, no. Like, I'm like, no. I said to her, I know this is penalizing you, but I don't care. Like, I'm not having it. Like, I'm not going to have you upstairs in your room where you feel safe getting messages that you shouldn't get. So I went for the time being. they're gone. Like I just said, I know that's not your fault, but I can't have people doing stuff like that. Like when you're at home, because she ran downstairs, I was sitting here and she's crying her eyes out. Like, and I was like, no, I'm not doing this. Like I've heard these horrible stories about people that I'm not going to say, but like things that happen, like because kids are getting bullied online. And I was like, no, I'm not having this crap. So I know it has penalized her, but in the long run, I think it's better that she's not on social media. Like
not yet
12,
anyway. Yeah.
12. Yeah.
12 is really young.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Anyway, sorry, I interrupted your flow.
No, well, all I was going to say is, there used to be all these art community websites like DeviantArt and others that artists would post to, but Instagram has really become like a place to find professional artists that post all the time. And even though I can't draw, seeing like some of my favorite comic artists like Arthur Adams, and just post daily and see what they're up to. It's just cool. It's kind of an escape and an inspiration, So, also Dexter New Blood just wrapped up
amazing
last night.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's been a big, that's been kind of a big escape the last couple of months. So.
Oh yeah, that's good. That was good, that show. Like, I think it ended how it probably should have ended. Like Jasmine's not watched it, obviously, but like how it ended. Like, I am annoyed by the ending, but equally, it should have been like that previously. We shouldn't have had to have this to get that ending. I'm glad that they brought it back and they finally gave us the ending we should have got before. So, and not the stupid lumberjack in the woods.
Yeah,
so,
riding off into the hurricane.
Yeah, like, no. But yeah, no, I'll be honest with you.
I do have to say. Sorry.
Look on.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, I really did not see Deborah's zombie coming out of the ground and vindicating Dexter. I didn't see that coming, so that was interesting.
Oh,
sure,
yeah,
Stephen.
Sure, yeah. Are you gonna watch New Blood?
I will eventually.
Oh, okay. Do you know how it ends? Because I know you just don't care about spoilers.
Yeah, Deb zombie. Duh. Stephen just said it.
Oh, yeah. But do you know how it actually ends?
No.
Okay. we won't ruin it for you, but yeah. So, but I would suggest watching it soon because there's a lot of spoilers now everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, we're holding back, but yeah. So anyway, but you talk about New Blood, right? So I think I know Jasmine's much more of a binger, but I actually do quite like the actual weekly things that kind of get you back in, like gives you something to look forward to. And I think in the last 2 years, we've not had a lot of maybe public events to look forward to. So things like the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, WandaVision, The Boys, Invincible, all these kind of things have been like, must see TV. And it's been amazing to see to give us something to look forward to. Whoa, what's happened to Stephen's face? Anyway, to have something to look forward to. I think those event type shows have been really brilliant. Yeah. I also think getting back out into the cinema has been brilliant. For me, Spider-Man No Way Home was just, honestly, all year I wanted to see that show. So that film. But yeah. What about you, Jasmine?
I definitely took this opportunity to dive deep into anime and manga and actually learning Japanese. I have always loved reading, always. And I had never picked up an actual manga. Like, I had watched anime before COVID hit, but like I was not a binge watcher of anime like I am now. But I had never read a manga before. So I bought my first manga and I was like, oh, damn, this is kind of fun. Like, plus it's like a lot of them they feel like books more so than comics. Like, I read a lot of trades, but like reading the floppies, to me, it's not quite the same. Like, there's not enough heft in your hand to me. So like reading a manga actually felt like reading a book again. And I just, like, my first job ever was at a bookstore. So like, I love the feeling of holding a book and the smell of new books and reading books. So I have now filled out 2 shelves on my bookcase of manga. I've got a stack that I don't have any room for, like on my desk. So doing a lot more reading and watching new things, but also like keeping my brain going. So I am now at level 3, like with my Japanese. So I've really been kind of enjoying the mental work that comes with not just kind of like having some place to relax and unwind, but also like giving my mind something to do. So that's pretty much the kind of stuff that I've used to get through COVID. Manga. That's who knew? Who knew manga would be the thing to pull me through COVID?
manga and anime were the answer to you.
Yeah, exactly.
I was going to say though, like reading in general, I think is a healthy thing to do, to take time away from.
But the thing was, like, I had been so busy before that it's almost like I forgot how much I loved to read. Like I had not read a book, any kind of book. It didn't have to be manga or comics, but like I had not read a physical book in years before COVID hit. So it really kind of brought that back to me and kind of reopened my love of reading. And now I have not stopped reading since COVID hit.
Yeah, I think our podcast made us read a lot more as well, didn't it? So, and even you said to me, you've read a lot more comics and graphic novels because of the thing, because of the podcast.
Yeah, the book club.
Well, the book club. But also, we do it in our weekly episodes as well, like more current stuff. So, and equally, you found some good shows like the Queen's Gambit last year too. So.
Oh yeah, great. I have become an expert at fast forwarding thanks to the Queen's Gambit. It really, really helped me get that fast forward motion going. Let me tell you.
That's probably your favorite show of last year, I think, wasn't it?
So. It was my favorite show to fast forward through last year. That's for sure.
Anyway, so we've kind of covered a little bit of help and support, but like I don't know if there's anything we have. Like I mean I haven't mentioned anything, but like if you guys want to talk about any help and support you've had, like once you've recognized there's a problem, and I would say the recognizing isn't for me, the recognizing was kind of all at once. So I think I'd known there was a problem for months, if not 6, 7, 8 months, but it wasn't like there's a problem, there's another problem, there's another problem. Oh, hold on a minute, there's about 25 different problems now hanging over me. And like it kind of all just came out in one go around New Year time. And I'd probably been trying to talk about it, but I'd probably not been trying to talk about it well enough. And it's made me really realize like communication, is important, here, but like my mum and dad, my friends, you guys, like, it's probably, to try and talk things through. But I think equally when someone's talking through things, like not just to, I don't know, shut them down. That's what I think, like, because I think I tried to, there's people I've probably tried to mention things to and like been shut down. Like I'm not just talking about here, but like other places, because people don't always want to hear bad news, or like, because when you walk past someone and say, how you doing, you right? You don't want, like, that's an English thing anyway, but like, how you doing, you right? Like people don't want to hear, oh, I've had a terrible day, like, and they're like, I don't want to know, like, I just want to hear you've had a good day. Like, I don't want to hear the bad stuff, like, but that's the thing though, like when someone says that, maybe that's time to jump in and say like, how can I help? So
well, I think you as an individual, like whenever you realize that you are going through something, it's your job to find your group. Like, if you're talking to like you talk to, like you said, sometimes you come across the wrong people, and it sucks because like you look at them and you think, oh man, I really had hoped that you would be the person that would like help me or listen to me or whatever, but like when that one person shuts you down, you just assume that everybody else is going to behave the same way. And I think we all have a problem with that. Like, it's like, damn, I just opened up and this is how you kind of respond to me opening up. I'm never doing this again, And it's like, but no, that's not how it works. Like if you try to open up to somebody and that's not the person, then try it again. because I
yeah.
guarantee you, like, none of us are alone in this. Like,
Yeah.
whatever you think you're going through that nobody else is going to understand, that
Yeah.
nobody could possibly have any idea how you specifically feel, I promise you, there is a group out there that is just for you. Like,
Mhm.
also, like, right at the when
Yeah.
COVID hit, like, I was still in the process of doing all of my dental surgery. So, like, having to pause
Mm.
my own surgeries because the dentists were considered non-essential at the time. So it was like I couldn't finish the work that I had already been working on for a year. So, like, but then it's really frustrating because it's like, but my teeth are still not done and I still can't do this and I still can't eat these things. And it's like, who am I supposed to talk to about this? And sure enough, like, I said something in passing at work and one of my coworkers was like, oh yeah, I started that process last year too. And I'm like, shut up, did you really? And it was just like such a relief to have someone to talk to about this one very specific thing that in my head, I was literally like, nobody else is getting dental implants. Like, nobody else knows how awful and horrible and stupid this whole process is. And sure enough, like, I said something and someone heard it and they were like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, me too. And I was like, oh my God, let's talk, please.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say, like, I think the talking to people thing is way more important than people
Mhm.
probably realize. Like, and I think the trouble is you got to recognize it.
Mhm.
So you can't always recognize it, but like when you have recognized it, I
Yeah.
mean, sometimes you're recognizing it as you're blowing up. So
Unfortunately, yeah.
like, yeah. So and then you've just upset everybody in the room. So Stephen really has a problem with his camera. So anyway, thank God he's wearing trousers, you know.
Dude,
Yeah, seriously.
Imagine, like,
Yeah.
oh, no, don't imagine. Anyway, so anyway,
Yeah.
but for me, the sort of the talking to people, I have spoken to doctors today, but I think for me, it's like the biggest thing for me is I need people. I need to, like, what all the things I'm trying to do is like social changes. Like that's like one of the big things for me. There's other problems. Like I'm not gonna talk about any real personal stuff, but like but the people I need people. I'm a sociable guy. Like I need
Mark
my
is
friend.
definitely the social one. I am not.
I need my friends. I need my family. Like I've seen my mum and dad a lot in the last like 2 or 3 weeks, and I'm like, I need to see my mum and dad more regularly. I need to see my brothers, my sister. Like, I just need to be able to have a beer with my friends. Like, and I do know this where I am and where they, an hour and a half away. That is something I need to really consider. Is having a big house the dream? Yeah. But would I rather see my friends and family a couple of times a week? That's what I'm sort of leaning towards. So, but yeah, so that's kind of what I thought. But yeah, I don't know. Like, is there anything you guys like? We could sort of. I know we've been talking a lot longer than we planned. Is there anything you guys want to achieve at all? Like, is there any goals? Like, you may not want to talk about all of them, but is there anything you want to talk about publicly?
Yeah, I'm getting a new job in 2022. There, I said it. Put it out there in the universe. Put it out there for the whole world here. I want a new job in 2022. I am sick of the job that I have now. I'm not going to go into those details, but that is literally the one resolution that I made this year was to
Is it in
get a
London?
new job. It could be. I don't know yet. I don't know yet. Maybe.
Like, then we could do this in person. Like, you could be sitting over here. Like,
yeah, in the front room.
Yeah, in the front room. Yeah, like that'd be weird. Like, but cool.
That would be super weird.
It'd be so weird just to chat like this across the table. Like,
Yeah.
it would probably take so long to get done. I reckon if we're in person.
Yeah.
What about you, Stephen? Is there anything you want to achieve? Or do you need to?
Yeah, I kind of alluded to it before. I want to get back to drawing. There's a story that has a lot to do with kind of my personal experience the last couple of years that I want to tell. So that's what I'm going to put everything I was working on aside and focus on that, because the things that I like really hope, like anybody who's listening to this that kind of is where have been, or like his questions about mental health. For me, like the two things I want to keep in mind myself are that I'm not alone. I'm not an abnormal, broken person that's outside the norm, that all of us are struggling. And like the truth of it is we're all just doing our best. And that phrase, we're all just doing our best, has been a lot more consolation for me this year, and has helped me have more grace for myself than I normally have. So yeah, I just want to get back to drawing and kind of focusing on those mantras, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. Was it something the doctor said to me today? Like, sounds like you've had no joy the last 12 months. And there has been things like I enjoyed my 40th, and there's other social interactions I have joined for the minimal ones that are like, there's certain people that have made life a lot more bearable for me, like, and given me sort of reasons to wake up in the morning. But there's been no, how we talked about that event TV thing, like Invincible, stuff like that. There's been nothing kind of coming up on the horizon that to look forward to. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? Like, you've got a big party with some friends, someone's 30 or 40 or whatever, or a summer barbecue, there's like been none of that stuff, like, going on. Or people obviously have to really restrict the numbers to like 5 or 6 people in the garden. It's not like pre-COVID when I'd go to a friend's house and there'd be like 40 people in the garden and like everyone's having a good time, like all that good stuff. So yeah, I think I need more joy. I need more social interaction.
Yeah.
There's other things I need, but like those are the ones I kind of want to talk about. So, but yeah. So,
and I think what Stephen said is really important. Like, there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with any of us. Whatever your issue is, it is not abnormal. You are not the only person. This is not something that no one else has ever heard of. Like, we are not alone. We are never alone in our journeys, ever.
Mm-hmm. I think I'll stop talking about this now. Oh, sorry, Stephen, is there more you want to add? Did you want to add more, Stephen?
Oh, no, I just, this is, it's kind of, I don't know, I guess it's kind of dark, but I just wanted to acknowledge the fact that, like, part of that, like, not being alone and not being abnormal, like, honestly, most of my life, I've been a very happy-go-lucky person. And I have never had what a lot of people would consider dark thoughts. But just, again, to relate to anybody who, like, may have struggled, like, even I have gotten to the point where, like, the idea of not being around at moments, it seemed like I could accept that. And I've never been there. So, like, I just want to stress, like, that's, you know what I mean? If you get to the point where you feel that low, where like not living is like something that crosses your mind, like that, you have to know, first of all, that's something to take seriously, and to include, like, maybe just trust the people that love you, if you've withdrawn from them, and also it happens to even the people who have been, like, quote unquote happy their whole life. It's not a mark of shame to feel that way. It happens. And anyway, it's just take a breath and find somebody that loves you, or, like, there's so much support out there. There are suicide hotlines all over the place, and those people have a love for people. Most of them are there volunteering because they can relate. So anyway, I know it's pretty dour, but the truth of it is, like, I know that if I have felt that way, that is, you know what I mean? A lot of other people have been there or are there. And it's just, don't be ashamed and take a step,
Yeah, no, what you just said about the notes, we're gonna, in our show notes, gonna add where people can find help and stuff like that. We won't read anything out now, but there's details in the notes, either on the YouTube like below, or on the podcast itself. So if you need extra help, just contact those people. What I'd say is, obviously, if you're on YouTube, if there's things that you think are helpful, please put those in the comments too. Like if there's any things that you've done to help, like that other people may appreciate, like, just put them in there. So I hope this has been an episode that you guys, I don't know if I would say enjoyed listening to, but like found helpful at all. So
it's our deep dive into us being completely honest and transparent. We are human, just like the rest of you. We are not immune to any of the normal human emotions that people go through. We are not immune to the events of the world that kind of loom over all of us. Like, it affects everyone, and it affects everyone differently, but we're not alone. Like, we can enjoy our nerdy things, but at the same time, we want you to know that if stuff needs to get serious, there are places that you can go for that. You can even come to us for that. Now, I mean, you want to talk about some of the things that you're going through, you want to talk about work issues, you hit me up. You want to talk about anything that you think nobody else has a problem with. In fact, if anybody else has had dental implants, like, please hit me up, because sometimes I still feel really like messed up about that.
Jasmine's gonna wake up the day after this episode with like 50 messages in her inbox. Like, what have I done? So,
it was a real struggle for me, because like I literally had to get used to a new face. Like when I got the implants, I did not recognize myself in the mirror, and that kind of cognitive dissonance was just like, I don't even know who that is. And I seriously, like, there were some days where I was like, I have no idea why I even started this. Like, I don't know what I was thinking. But like, again, opening my mouth and saying out loud, like, this is what is happening to me and it sucks. And for someone else to be like, oh my God, I went through the same thing. It changed everything. It literally changed everything. So
was it like Quantum Leap? Was it like Quantum Leap?
Yes, it's exactly like that.
What? Did you say, oh boy, every time you looked in the mirror?
I sure did.
So yeah, look, get, obviously speak to us.
Yeah.
Comments, but I mean, obviously we're not trained professionals, but if you still want to speak to us, we're always open. Well, I mean, except when we're asleep,
It's true, we do sleep. Sleep. Mm-hmm.
Occasionally. Stephen hasn't slept for about 3 weeks.
Mark doesn't sleep though, because it's probably like 3 a.m. The sun's about to rise wherever he is. Like, Mark never sleeps.
Only happened one time. Like, that only happened one time. We were up way too late, and like the sun was coming up. Like, I was like, "What is going on?" It's like Saturday now, like well into Saturday, like six in the morning, I think it was. It's like, this is crazy. Like, I felt so like crap the next day. But yes, it is 2:30 in the morning for me, so we will be bringing this to a close. Obviously, thanks for listening. Look, I mean, we're all human, there's nothing wrong with people for having down days or down weeks or down months, but like, just,
life is 50-50. You are never going to be happy all the time, but at the same time, you are never going to be miserable all the time either.
No. So let's move into something positive. Our next episode is going to come out next week. Actually, it's going to come out a lot closer than next week, but it's going to be our most anticipated 2022 shows, movies, comics, maybe some games, maybe some other crap.
Yeah.
So we'll figure that out. You can also follow us, Geeks Unleashed. We're everywhere. Social media is Geeks Unleashed, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Come say hi, come comment, like, share, all that stuff. So see you there.
And you can get this podcast wherever you get your podcasts, anywhere. Google, Podbean, Apple, Spotify. We are all over the place. So please leave us a 5-star review and tell your geeky friends.
I just realized we normally put a little thing in the comments about book club, which we have omitted, but I will show you now. January's book club is Reckless by Edward Baker and Sean Phillips. So from Image Comics, we actually, all three of us will be back to talk about this chunky book here. This episode will drop towards the end of January. We haven't figured out when, but it will be.
Yes.
So,
and we are going to keep Stephen around. We're going to hold on him. In fact, if we have to send another search party to Tennessee, we will do that.
But, we're going to get someone to tow that car. With Stephen in the car. It'd be so funny if Jasmin looks out of her apartment window. Like, it's like Stephen like it's made it all the way down to Houston. So
yeah, exactly.
It's too far to me. They have to get a boat or a plane.
Yeah, a boat would take you forever. Just don't take a Titanic. That's all.
Well, I mean, I don't think anyone's going to do that. Like, I don't think anyone would ever give it another name.
They were trying. I'm pretty sure they were trying to find another transatlantic boat, and they were going to call it the Titanic 2 or something like that, weren't they?
Oh, who would get on that? Like,
Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah, exactly.
I would not get on that. So if someone said, "I'll get on the Titanic," like in 2023 or 4, whenever it comes out, I'll be like, no. Like, no, I'm not getting on a boat on Titanic. I'm not suspicious, right? I'm not, but I'm still not doing it.
I'm not doing that. And I'm not getting on a boat called Poseidon.
Yeah, I'm not doing that either. Yeah, I'm not doing it. Wasn't there? Oh, what's that boat called? Mary Celeste. I'm not doing that either.
Which one is that one?
Oh, hold on. Yeah, Mary.
Anyway, we're gonna let you guys go. Thank you.
Yeah.
Please be sure to join us next week. We're back to our regular shenanigans.
We're waffling. Yeah. This is what we do off air. But yeah, the Mary Celeste, in brief, just rocked up without people. Like, all the people were gone.
That's super weird. Creepy. Anyway, good journey.
Yeah, bye everyone. See you next time.